The wind does not care how much money you spent on your gear. Nature does not respect brand names, and the freezing rain does not care about your comfort. I watched a $500 ultralight commercial survival tent violently shred to ribbons in less than 20 minutes during a brutal, high-altitude storm. The fiberglass poles snapped like dry twigs, and the thin, neon-colored synthetic fabric ripped wide open, exposing the inside of the shelter to a deadly freezing deluge. In a true grid-down scenario, a failed tent is not an inconvenience, it is a death sentence. When you were stranded miles away from civilization, hyperthermia will kill you long before dehydration or starvation even sets in. The survival industry wants you to believe that you need complex, expensive, and fragile shelters to stay alive. They lied to you. When the storm hit and the modern tent was annihilated, my life wasn't saved by expensive commercial gear. It was saved by a $15 piece of heavy-duty military surplus fabric. Welcome back to the den. Today, we are talking about the ultimate cheat code for extreme survival. I'm going to show you the 7 secret hacks of the legendary GI military poncho that will keep you alive when everything else fails. Hack number 1 is the plow point emergency shelter. When the wind is howling at 60 miles per hour, a modern dome tent becomes a parachute. It catches the wind, bends, and eventually shatters. The GI poncho operates on a completely different principle of physics, deflection. By staking down 3 of the metal grommets securely into the mud and tying the reinforced hood and the 4th corner to a sturdy tree, you create an aerodynamic wedge. The plow point shelter does not fight the wind, it forces the brutal storm to aggressively slice over and around you. The heavy polyurethane-coated ripstop nylon refuses to tear, creating an impenetrable windproof and waterproof barrier. You are no longer trapped inside a fragile plastic bubble waiting for the poles to snap. You are deeply embedded into the earth, fully protected by a shelter that took exactly 3 minutes to build, using nothing but paracord and physics. Hack number 2 is the thermal radiant reflector. One of the most fatal mistakes beginners make is zipping themselves entirely inside a modern nylon tent when the temperature plummets. You cannot safely build a fire inside a commercial tent without risking carbon monoxide poisoning or instantly melting the synthetic fabric directly onto your skin. The GI poncho, when configured as an open-face lean-to shelter, solves this perfectly. By building a long survival fire just a few feet in front of the open shelter, the dark, coated interior of the poncho acts as a massive thermal mirror. It physically catches the radiant heat from your fire and aggressively bounces it back down onto your body. Even in sub-zero freezing weather, the ambient temperature inside that small poncho microclimate can easily reach a comfortable 70 degrees. You are using the poncho to manipulate the physics of heat transfer, keeping frostbite at bay while the modern prepper freezes in his expensive sleeping bag. Hack number 3 is the rainwater catchment system. In a brutal 72-hour survival scenario, thirst will break your mind before it breaks your body. If you are trapped in an environment without a running water source, you have to weaponize the weather. You cannot catch enough rain in a tiny metal canteen cup to survive, but the GI poncho gives you nearly 40 square feet of non-toxic, waterproof surface area. By digging a shallow, wide depression in the earth and securely lining it with your poncho, you create an instant, massive water collection basin. Alternatively, you can tie the 4 corners to 4 trees, leaving a small rock near the center hole to create a gravity funnel. A heavy downpour will fill that poncho with gallons of pristine, life-saving drinking water in a matter of minutes. You just turned the very storm that threatened to kill you into an unlimited hydration source. Hack number 4 is the improvised Ranger bivvy. Nightfall in the wilderness is unforgiving. If you are exhausted, stranded, and unable to build a shelter or a fire, you must protect your core body temperature at all costs. The wind will aggressively strip away your body heat faster than you can generate it. The military poncho was designed with heavy-duty metal snap buttons along the edges for exactly this reason. By laying the poncho flat, placing your wool blanket or sleeping bag inside, and securely snapping the edges completely tightly shut, you construct an emergency bivy sack. This creates a hyper-sealed windbreaker that traps your escaping body heat and locks out the freezing moisture. It is a suffocating tight fit, but in a deadly emergency, that trapped pocket of warm air is the only physical barrier standing between you and lethal hypothermia.
Hack number 5 is the swimmer's flotation bundle. If you are bugging out and your path is blocked by a deep, freezing river, crossing it with a heavy, soaking wet backpack will drag you straight to the bottom. Modern tactical bags absorb water rapidly, adding dozens of dead weight to your shoulders. The GI Poncho allows you to completely bypass this danger. You lay the poncho completely flat on the ground, pile your heavy backpack, boots, and critical survival gear precisely in the center, and tightly gather the edges together. By twisting the top aggressively and tying it off tightly with paracord, you trap a massive bubble of air inside the waterproof nylon. You have just created a highly buoyant, waterproof flotation device. You can safely swim across the treacherous river using your gear bundle as a buoyant float, knowing that when you reach the other side, your radio, fire-starting kit, and dry clothes will be perfectly untouched by the water. Hack number 6 is the heavy load hauler in emergency stretcher. Survival is rarely about fighting. It is mostly about brutal, exhausting physical labor. If you need to gather a massive pile of heavy, wet firewood to survive a 3-day blizzard, carrying it in your arms will rapidly deplete your calories and shred your clothing. The GI Poncho is engineered from heavy-duty ripstop nylon that can withstand immense tension. You can pile 100 pounds of jagged, heavy timber directly onto the center of the poncho, grab the reinforced corners, and drag it through the snow and mud like a sled. In a worst-case medical scenario, if a member of your scout team breaks a leg or falls unconscious, you can slide 2 thick wooden poles through the folded edges of the poncho. The fabric is so strong that it immediately converts into an emergency medical stretcher, capable of bearing the full physical weight of a grown man. Try dragging a heavy load of firewood across the dirt with your expensive commercial rain jacket. It will shred into ribbons in seconds. Hack number 7 is tactical concealment and the evasion blind. In a total grid collapse, visibility is a vulnerability. The commercial survival industry loves selling bright orange, neon green, and reflective gear. They want you to be easily found by rescue teams. But in a brutal SHTF scenario, being easily found by desperate, starving scavengers is the absolute last thing you want. The GI Poncho is designed in dark, flat olive drab or woodland camouflage for a reason. It absorbs light rather than reflecting it. If you hear an approaching threat, you can instantly throw the poncho over yourself and your gear, crouch down low into the brush, and completely break up your human silhouette. The matte fabric blends perfectly into the shadows, the mud, and the dark timber. You become a ghost in the woods. You are no longer a target, you are a part of the landscape. A shelter, a heat reflector, a water catchment basin, a windproof bivy, a flotation device, a heavy stretcher, a tactical blind. 7 extreme survival uses engineered into a single, indestructible $15 military surplus fabric. The industry desperately wants you to ignore gear like this. They want you terrified, spending hundreds of dollars on fragile plastics, fragile poles, and complex zippers that will violently fail you the moment the weather turns deadly. They want you dependent on commercial supply chains. But true survival is not about buying more gear. It is about carrying less gear that does more. It is about understanding the raw laws of physics and manipulating your environment to stay alive. Do not wait until you're freezing in the dark, watching your modern tent collapse, to realize that you bought the wrong equipment. Stop trusting plastic. Start trusting the gear that veterans had bet their lives on for over half a century. You know the truth now. The sheep graze, the scavengers beg, but the wolf prepares. Subscribe to the Den. Stay unbroken.